Welcome back to Innovation and the Digital Enterprise, the podcast where we explore what it takes to build and lead transformative tech teams. I'm your host, Patrick Emmons. Today, we're doing something a little different, a special compilation episode focused on one of the most recurring and thought-provoking themes across our interviews, digital transformation. We've pulled together insights from some of our most impactful guests, each offering a unique take on how real change happens in organizations. You'll hear from people like Andrei Girenkov on why transformation has to include people and process, Christopher Paquette on balancing disruption with protection, and Yeung will be talking about why attention to internal operations is essential, and my good friend Sandee Kastrul, who reminds us that innovative change comes from bold, unconventional thinking. Then we'll hear from Deepak Kaimal on how Gen AI can be a powerful transformation tool. Jeff Miller is going to share his thoughts on the underrated skill of listening, the foundation, in my opinion, of good leadership. And Christina Garcia on the importance of empowering your team to lead change from within. Tanya Hannah is going to talk about staying nimble. Dan Kirsche shares the impact and challenges and opportunities within the actual org structure. Dom Scandinaro discusses how the size of your team changes the shape of transformation. Subramanian Kunchithapatham points out that technology often moves faster than training and why you can't afford to leave your team behind. And wrapping it up, Gene Kim is going to share his thoughts on the powerful reminder that communication, human connection, the human touch is the foundation of true transformation. It's going to be a great little journey. I'm glad you're joining us. Let's dive in.
A lot of what we do is sometimes called digital transformation, and it's often led by technology executives. But if you look at what's actually involved in the successful digital transformation, it's changing people's jobs descriptions, it's changing operating models, it's changing revenue models. It's a lot of enterprise change management, so getting people to behave in a very different way. And it's all empowered by technology, so it's a necessary block, but it's not a sufficient block. It's only maybe 50% of the work, maybe even less. So the more you can pick yourself up from your comfy technology chair and kind of get out there into the maybe a little bit uncomfortable business zone, the better position you will be to speak effectively to your business leaders, to lead change, to achieve digital transformation, and do that in a way that hopefully goes out beyond your blinders and into the broader industry network around you.
I would always go back to the why behind it. So asking why would we digitally transform leads you to what is digital transformation. And I think the why, I always talk about it as two parts. One is protecting the core of what the business is and how you create value, and then disrupting the ecosystem, creating new products, creating new services, new revenue models, new routes to market. And between those two, protect and disrupt, you really kind of have the waterfront covered for value creation. So it's about protecting, disrupting to create value for customers.
When companies are going through a lot of transformation, the corporate functions are actually hit the hardest because there is a lot of people and process changes that need to happen. And the underlying tech that needs to enable it goes through a big change. And being the backbone of any company, these corporate functions going through a digital transformation are extremely important in order to enable the success of other functions. So I feel like sometimes you don't feel like it's as sexy because corporate functions don't drive revenue, right? Because they're not revenue producing. But then if not done right, the efficiency of the company and how we can operate gets impacted, especially during digital transformation and change.
I really believe that diversity is the primary driver of invention. And all the greatest innovations are coming from people who are thinking or looking at things differently. We know that the next big idea is coming from someone who's not thinking about today's or yesterday's way of doing things, or thinking about how to disrupt things, how to make things better, how to reinvent, how to challenge what's wrong.
So to be able to map that back to businesses, it is not so much about saying, okay, where can I use Gen AI in my business, which is the wrong question to ask. The question to ask is, what is a problem in my business that I couldn't solve before? And the solution doesn't have to be Gen AI, but in many cases, there are unsolvable problems like data cleansing, data mapping, stuff like that, where you now can do it extremely reliably and extremely rapidly and at a level of quality that is just amazing. So I've seen a lot of organizations that will hire people or labeled on their technical skill, like any label, right? I've got 15 years experience in Java, or I've got 20 years experience in .NET. I can actually say that today. So go by those labels. But what I've seen in my experience over the last 25 years is that the ones who are successful are the ones who are able to navigate that change. It is important to be strong in that technology, but it is also important to know that it doesn't stay static. It is people who are able to navigate that change, shift from one platform to the other, have the curiosity to understand how the new platforms were being developed, and to be able to take it on and build on top of it. What you need are people who understand the business, who understand how technology works, and to be able to explore and map how these technologies can be leveraged to drive your own business, to navigate change, sometimes almost ride the wave, almost look for those opportunities where change is driving growth.
Sometimes it's just good to listen and understand, right? And I think as a good life lesson as you go through is just like you got good ideas, but really understanding the local context is really important, really to kind of help shape and understand how you actually drive change through the organizations.
You control what you control. And if new information comes in, we adapt, we adjust, right? And we change scope, we change our plan, we make alternatives, we adjust the plan. So I think the biggest thing for me right now is helping the engineers feel truly empowered to take control of what they can control. And we can set a date based on what we know and what is in our control. And when new information comes up or a situation changes, like we adjust, we have new information and we make better decisions. I think it was Maya Angelou that said that you make the best decision you have with the information. When you learn more, you do better.
That's where innovation, transformation, and growth really occurs. And what we're seeing today, you have to be nimble. Our organizations need agility, scalability. And the only way you can do it is if you can really anticipate what's going to happen, make sure that your teams and your organizations are there and the technology is behind it.
For me, it always ties back to org structure. So I focus on that first. And I have, throughout my career, I've kind of fine-tuned it. It's not very different, I think, than most other companies, what they implement, other tech companies kind of follow this practice as well. It's really standard agile, right? I think that there's some really key principles that are necessary. And the reason why I focus so much on this is the need to drive ownership, right? Ownership and accountability is like first principle, right? You have to have that to do anything else and drive any other sort of change within the organization, whether it be architecture, like other sort of collaborative efforts, that sort of thing. You have to have accountability and ownership, especially in super complex projects.
I think one that you just have to learn firsthand, which seems really obvious in retrospect, is just that the same processes and procedures that you have for one team of engineers with a team of 3 engineers at the whole company don't work when you have 10 teams of engineers with 100 engineers at the whole company. And it isn't immediately obvious when you're in the thick of it that if things are going super well and you're hiring and hiring and hiring and building more and more teams, that you actually need to change anything, right? Because things are going well.
people are deploying code, more customers are coming, revenue is increasing. You don't always just take a step back and think about what efficiencies are we missing out on by not adjusting our processes, or, kind of the opposite, like what problems are we causing by maybe moving too fast.
It's not easy to digitize all these things, digitizing assets, processes, and interactions. One is technologically, you need to move fast and digitize these things. That's one challenge. The second challenge, I would put it as you need to do it at a much faster pace. And when you have to do it at a much faster pace, then all the existing processes and your associates and your employees are trained on the existing processes. Once you digitize, there are going to be changes. Then you need to train all your associates to be familiar with what is the new mode of operations.
The difference maker is really in this kind of layer 3 wiring, right? So layer 1 is the object in front of us. It could be the patient, it could be the code, it could be the binary running in production. Layer 2 is the tools and technology. So that could be the MRI machine, the CAT scanner, the IDE that we're editing our code in. It could be the Kubernetes platform. But the difference maker is all in layer 3 is how do we connect our teams and people together? Norms, rituals, processes, the software architecture we work within that dictate who talks to who, about what and when and how, right? And on the one extreme, everyone has what they need, when they need it, in the right format, and they can get it easily. In the worst case, no one has what they need, right? And so even small efforts require superheroic effort, massive coordination costs, escalations, cajoling, politicking, right? Even to get small things done, right? And everyone's stuck. And so I just found that kind of really dividing what the spectrum of performance looks like and isolating it to layer 3 around organizational wiring just to be so illuminating. It was by far the most intellectually challenging thing I've ever worked on, but it's one of the most rewarding. And one more thing, I think whenever you study transformations, when an organization goes from good to great, whether that's in DevOps or Agile or like the NUMI joint venture in Fremont, California, what almost always happens is that layer 1 and layer 2, nothing changes. Same people, same equipment, same floor space, right? Same capital equipment. The only thing that changes is layer 3. Right. And so, when we say it's the difference maker, it just really says that leaders are truly responsible for that layer 3 wiring that preordain to what extent people can do what they need to do easily and well.
So much insight in these leaders' words. It was inspiring to revisit these conversations. I hope you found these takeaways just as valuable as I do. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.